Dave Starcevich, the man, the myth, the legend. I am so excited for this interview. Thank you so much for joining us for the third time.
Yeah, happy to be back.
Awesome. So Copper Cup Coffee, it's become something exceptional. You've been doing this for over 2.5 years now. When did you know? When was that like defining moment that you saw the impact that your business could have on our community?
It was probably maybe a year ago. We started to see some transitions in the style of business we were running. Where when we started off, we were doing a little bit of everything, and you're basically survival mode anytime you start a business, and you go through a life cycle of a business has pretty defined stages that you go through, and so we started getting into the roles where we were able to hire really good quality people, and we were able to step back from the minute-to-minute operations, and now we're running the day-to-day operations, and that was a big turning point there for sure. And right now, we're really transitioning away from day-to-day operations and really starting to divide and conquer, where Ari's kind of doing the day-to-day stuff. I'm starting to look, be a little more forward-looking as far as month-to-month, year-to-year type stuff. And, eventually we're really trying to transition away from being a business that's a single point of failure where it's Ari and I, and if one of us is not there, everything catches on fire and explodes, to really building out our team, developing people into that next step, that next role, to be able to support a business that's not fully, focused on us. This business needs to be a self-contained thing that, that we're stewards of, and not, it's not reliant on us.
So that's a lot of progress and milestones in 2.5 years.
So those are big steps. Every one of those is a big step.
Because it's hard to imagine it's been 2.5 years. It's been a long, it just feels like you're a small business, but with becoming an established small business. I mean, you're a hub for community, a hub for conversations. Yeah. I mean, how many millions of cups of coffee have been poured over the past 2.5 years, and we just see the growth. I mean, we see the consistent. There's always someone in Copper Cup of Coffee. That your tables are always relatively always full, and now you're looking at growth. So talk to us a little about the growth that you've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, well, we've really become the cultural hub of Casper, it feels like, which is a great feeling. The place always has a really good positive energy. It's busy from open until close. There's just always stuff going on. And the way that I've been describing it to people, which is kind of an interesting thing to really think about, is we've reached a point where the business has kind of outgrown Ari and myself. And so I don't even view us as the owners of a business anymore. We're kind of the stewards of something that's its own thing, and we're kind of responsible for in that sense, but it's bigger than us at this point. And so that's where I'm talking about, where we need to start building out a team, putting, those structures in place that make it a stable business long term, and that's kind of where our view is right now.
Well, that's awesome. It's awesome to see. Can you talk to us about some of the plans you have with that lot that's to the right of Copper Cup? You have any things going on over there?
Oh gosh, that changes month to month. No, we were just happy to be able to pick that up. Prior, that was some really, really run down buildings. That had a lot of drugs, prostitution. It wasn't kept up. It was just a really, really not a great place. And being right next to a high school, an elementary school, you have your downtown area right there, and it was just kind of a dark spot in the whole area. It wasn't a street that people would walk down. It was something that you would cross the other side of the street to avoid, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when it came available for sale, we were excited to pick that up and get it tore down. And that was a pretty extensive project, but it was worthwhile to just clean up the area. It gives us a little more space to operate. So now we put down some temporary asphalt for people to park without making a mess on the street, and that's been super helpful. And then it just opens up the area so where you have a little scenery now. You don't have that blight that's kind of an eyesore. So
right now it's just an extended parking lot for
yeah.
But it might turn into something else.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, we've gone from everything from a food truck court to a whole new coffee roasting coffee shop building to just a landscaped park area. We've talked a little bit about everything, but nothing has really stuck just yet.
So. It'll be something. It'll be something,
Yeah,
but we just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, it's looking at the economics of doing something there has been really tricky. Building anything is extremely expensive and not really wise to do for us right now. So it's just one of those things that the best option is just kind of to sit and wait. So
right.
That's all we're doing. Yeah.
And then there's also the Wyoming Sports Ranch. You just opened up something over there. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, they were gracious enough to invite us in, and they asked us to provide a coffee service up there, an espresso service, which was awesome. So we just recently opened this past week. We put a lot of capital towards really high-end equipment, something that's extremely unique. We went with under-counter espresso machines, so we have a really clean look on the countertop with all the boiler and the big pumps down below in a cart. And so you end up with this really clean look. The parts that you see are all finished black and copper accented.
Yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, they're really beautiful. It's really high-end equipment. We really sought out to wow people that come by. We really wanted to, they invested a lot of money in that ranch, and they wanted to provide a quality product. And so we really went above and beyond to really, put our best foot forward and really showcase, an experience for people there for coffee. So yeah, it's really exciting. The equipment's cool. Our team's really excited to go up there and serve, and yeah, it's really exciting.
It is. It's really nice. I've been out there a couple times to see it. I haven't been able to get any coffee yet because no one's there to pour me a cup. But it's really nice. It's definitely another experience, like you said.
Yeah, and it was a fun project too. When we started, we wanted to move quickly just because we wanted to capture some of the big events that are taking place quicker than you would typically move on a big project, but. That gave us a handful of constraints that we had to work around. And so the carts that we're using are all self-contained. We put in a clean water supply, and then there's a dirty water catch in the bottom of this cart. So outside of electrical, it's a self-contained unit on wheels that you can move around. But it helps us deal with the constraints. We were able to move really quickly and get our operation up and off the ground in a pretty short time span. So, we expedited equipment, got things here shipped as quick as possible to make sure that we caught the events that are going to be a lot of fun. So,
So when this airs, you'll already have a couple months or at least a month behind you, so we can talk about how good it was.
Yeah.
So CNFR starts next week.
Yeah, next week. Yeah, we already had one event. There was a small basketball tournament this last weekend, and we were able to field that, which was great. So awesome. The reception was really nice.
So thanks for watching today. These podcasts are powered by PayRock, and PayRock is a payment solutions provider. We work with any size business or nonprofit, improving those payment acceptance efficiencies while reducing those overall costs. You can get a hold of me through any one of those social media channels, or you can give me a call. Let's get back to that podcast. So you've taken this thing from a vision that originated, at least the ideas, in Butte, Montana. And if you're not familiar with the story, check out the previous podcast because they're really super interesting where the vision comes from, the genesis of the name Copper Cup Coffee. So now you're stewards of this vision that you have, and it's quite a journey. And I think it's just an amazing story. In that entire process, has your definition of success changed since the 2.5 years ago when this all started?
Gosh, that's a tricky one. I don't know. In fact, I just found myself thinking about that the last few days. Now that you bring it up, it is one of those things that you do start to think about as you go through each one of these phase changes. Because before there wasn't really time to stop and think about it. It was when you're in survival mode, it's not something that really crosses your mind.
Right.
But as you start to transition into that phase of the business where you're starting to think in terms of months and years and decades. Yeah, that changes quite a bit. So the thing that I have found the most value in is the idea of being a cultural hub. And I think that's something that's missing in a lot of places. And if we're able to reproduce that consistently, I think could be a real benefit to a lot of places. So
yeah.
I would love to be the cultural hub of Wyoming and further out and really see if we can reproduce this environment that we have here, where we have a lot of business networking, friends networking, moms networking. It's a really community oriented place that I think a lot of places would really benefit from.
I do too, because I think your vision is also in line with the Wyoming culture as well. It's not, you're not importing a culture from another state or another area. You're true to the Rockies. I mean, obviously you're from Montana, but still this is the identity of Wyoming. And so I think that's what makes it unique. And it's not like other coffee shops. You are who you are.
Yeah, our goal is to go above and beyond coffee. Like coffee is the means to the end, which, it ultimately is just building out that community feel and that networking environment. So.
And yeah, the focus on moms, the daycare or the area in the back where kids can play, and just then it's definitely different. It's definitely family focused. It's definitely clearly you're not pushing, you're not requiring certain things, or you're not, you're actually giving space to. And there's a rock climbing wall in the back that not everyone sees because not everyone walks all the way to the back of it. But there's a rock climbing wall for kids. It's just a unique environment.
Yeah, for sure. That was our dream. The coffee is a great way to make that happen because it's, historically something that people have always involved in their their communal outings. So, it goes hand in hand really well. It's a great business on the coffee side. It's a great way to enter into people's lives. And it's just been a real blessing that way, that the marriage works really, really well.
It does. Yeah, it does. And plus your partnership, obviously you're not doing this alone, already just brings a huge, it's very complimentary to what you're doing.
Yeah, that's one of our biggest assets actually, is the way that we complement one another. She is a really, really unique asset. Her ability to run day-to-day operations, especially in a restaurant setting, and to schedule and to train girls and to get everyone, up to speed, to manage inventory. She is really just knocking it out of the park. And she really does a lot of things where I fall short and vice versa. And it really makes us a really, really good team. That I think is probably one of the top reasons that we have been successful, is that we are able to divide up our resources in a way where we can excel where our strengths are and balance each other out really well. It's been that's just been unbelievable. Yeah.
And the communication side, the marketing things, what's really interesting about it is, if you know Ari, you know that it's just an extension of who she is. It's not fake. What you guys put out on Instagram and Facebook and all the things is you guys. It's who you are. It's your family. It's your kids. It's the uniqueness of coffee and what she obviously enjoys. It's obviously there's an authenticity that you see in it, and I think that's what makes it stick.
Oh yeah. There was a great one she just did this morning, actually, just to highlight her authenticity. Her and a friend got up really early this morning and went up and did the bridal trail, and they brought with them a coffee that they could make up on the mountain, in the wilderness, and they sat and took a video of themselves making it and then having a conversation. And it just really highlighted the authenticity
for sure
of what we're trying to do. And I just thought that was a great video. That was really cool.
No, I saw it this morning too. It's good. It was a maca. I don't know what it was.
No, I think they did a matcha or something. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't drink that stuff.
No, me either.
I drink coffee.
Well, she forgot the coffee, I think. She goes, I got up there that we had matcha. I forgot the pour over packets we wanted to bring. So
it's all good though. Yeah. It was a great little short though. Going back to entrepreneurship, a lot of times entrepreneurs have to balance between intuition and then actually, strategy. Can you tell us about a decision you had to make that you trusted your gut as opposed to like conventional wisdom, and how did that turn out?
A lot of what we've transitioned into is actually we're getting to a point where we've kind of become saturated with time, resources, money, that kind of thing, on what we can handle. And so a lot of what's changed is really having to pick the opportunities and really say no to a lot more things, just to be able to maintain our quality with the things that we do commit to. And so there's been projects that we've taken on and that we've had to decline down the line just because we can't put our best foot forward. And one thing that I think is important, like if we're going to commit to a project, I want to be able to do it right. And if we're not going to be able to do it right, I don't want to do it. Right. So there's been some things that we've backed out on. And that's just something that, like I said, going back to being a steward, it hurts me personally to do stuff like that. I don't like committing to things and then having to back out. Yeah. But when you're a steward of something bigger than yourself, it is your responsibility to do what's best for the overall business. And sometimes that means uncomfortable conversations, backing out, having to say no to things that you would like to do, but don't have the resources for.
Right.
And just being honest with people and, saying that you can't put your best foot forward, and it's better to not do it than to have a half-hearted effort.
For sure. Saying no is not an easy thing, but it's a vital thing.
It's a vital thing.
It is.
One of the people that I really like and enjoy quite a bit in the business world is Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, and they harp on this consistently. It's they say no to everything. I think they call Charlie Mr. No or whatever, just because
Right.
everything's a no unless it is easy, within range, cheap. Meets all the criteria,
Right.
and that's a good opportunity. And so that's kind of where we're getting to as stewards is we have to find the best opportunities for the business overall without bringing in risk to the business. So we really measure that very carefully anymore.
Right. What's the hardest decision you've had to make in the last 2.5 years?
I don't know. I don't know that any of them have been hard, because we've always, I'm a very diligent thinker ahead of time. And so I try to really evaluate things over a long period of time and talk with people and get a lot of input from different trusted resources. So yeah. I don't know that any of them are hard decisions when you approach them logically and slowly.
Right.
I think where you get into when you end up having to make hard decisions, it's when you put yourself in a position where you've made a decision too quickly, or you haven't thought through the risks carefully, or you haven't advised people who maybe have a different perspective than you. I really try to do those things before making big decisions. We don't really go out and just do things quickly. So when we do commit to something, we're able to move fast on it, but we don't make the decision to move without going through a very slow and diligent process of thought.
Planning it all out and making sure that you answer all the questions before.
Yeah,
I get it. So can you tell us about what's on the horizon? Any risks that you're considering taking? What are the next seasons or next steps of Copper Cup Coffee looking like?
Well, the next thing I would love to try and to see, like we've talked about just now, is just is quality repeatable? Is culture repeatable? Can you take what we've started in one location and put it into a second location, and what does that look like? And that comes with some challenges. The steps that we're trying to take right now is building out a team that's not solely dependent on Ari and myself. And so there's some training that's involved there, and there's finding the right fit, the right people to take on those roles that have the same passion that we do. And that's a difficult thing. There's not a lot of people out there that can take on that much responsibility. And so as we go to start expanding a little bit to see if we can reproduce this and scale this type of thing that we've created, that's going to be a challenge is finding the right team to build it around.
Right.
Because as you expand outward, you really need the resources to drive the bus. It's you can't scale by yourself. So
right. And if you do, or when you do scale, do you think you're going to stay inside Wyoming? Is that the idea?
Yeah. I kind of like the model of keeping everything in house and building an internal team that's able to take that responsibility, put it, give them the tools that they need to be successful, and let them run with it. I prefer that over the franchise type model in my thinking. I think that helps you control quality a little better.
Right.
It gives you a little more. Strength to build out robust systems, as opposed to the franchise model. I think it allows you to grow quicker, but I think there lacks some controls that I would prefer.
Right. So is that a vision that you think you could roll out in the next few years, or is this like a 5 or 10?
Yeah, no, I hope so. No, I could see us doing this in the next 2-ish years or so. Yeah, comfortably, for sure.
In some of the last podcasts, you've talked about political influence on small business. Have you seen any changes in state and federal policies that are affecting you locally here?
No, yes and no. I think the scale of the impact is over exaggerated. The tariff thing, it has an impact. What's the actual scale of the impact? It's probably not as much as you hear on the TV. There's a lot of scare that, there's a lot of inflation associated with it. But, there's so many variables that go into how prices are set overall in a market that to claim that, one variable is going to impact the outcome, I think is a little bit naive.
Right.
And I think you see this quite a bit in the mainstream media and online, and it helps build a lot of panic in people because you're able to associate one variable with one outcome, and how that one variable moves impacts a very, very, very complex thing like a price.
Right.
I don't know. I don't think so. One of the things that those calculations leave out, I think, is consumer choice and consumer sentiment. Ultimately, price is just a balance of supply and demand, and price can only go up so much before someone's going to choose to buy something else or not buy at all. And prices can't go up indefinitely if the consumer base can't support those prices.
Right.
And if you look at some of the underlying data behind that, the inflation risk, I think, is not as high as a lot of people would like to claim.
So you're the eternal optimist.
Well, there's definitely things to worry about on the horizon. I just don't know that inflation is
Right.
the big one. There's a lot of market imbalance just throughout a lot of different stuff right now. I mean, there's a lot of shakeout that really needs to happen in the next couple of years, just to bring things a little bit more in line with reality and historic trends. We've run so hot for the last, whatever it's been, 5-10 years, that things are just not in reality right now.
What are you referring to? What are a couple
Well,
examples?
there's a number of things like that. I mean, if you look at housing prices versus people's wages, that is something that makes no sense. And at some point, it's going to come back to reality. You don't know when, but either wages will have to go up or house prices will have to come down. And that plays out across a series of things. Asset prices, the stock market is very, very high with, without the earnings to back up those prices. So again, very high. You have an aging demographic that's going into a mode where they should be selling over the next 5 to 10 years into younger demographics who don't have the same population size.
Right.
That's a selling market that's going to force prices down eventually. So
right.
There's a number of those things. You never know when they're going to happen, how they're going to happen, but just overall things seem very high right now.
I think a course correction is definitely inevitable.
Yeah.
I think when you look at some statistics of what a household needs to earn in order to purchase a home today, it's just not realistic.
A home, a car, insurance, all these things, like wages have not moved all that much.
Right.
And prices of everything have gone up pretty dramatically, from housing, vehicles, insurance, medical bills. Across the entire, platform of products, prices have gone up. Somehow consumers have continued to spend, but, they're only capable of so much before they run out of, savings, run out of debt that they can use. And and that's happening like right now. So
there's a breaking point. There's
it's
clearly
coming,
because you can only borrow so much. You can only some car manufacturers, for example, will allow you to buy a vehicle, a $50,000 vehicle with no just a simple credit check. If your credit is decent, then you can get but there's no income checks, things like that. If you buy a brand new vehicle, those types of things shouldn't exist in a normal, and I think in a normal economy, there should be better checks and balances to make sure, are they going to be able to pay that vehicle off in a reasonable period of time?
Yeah. And that's so when you go back to the politics of how this is all played out, I mean, there's been a lot of kicking the can down the road. Student debt's another one where, for how many years now you haven't had to make student loan payments, and that can's been kicked down the road till right about now. And so that's another, leaf on the pile, or, sand on the, on the hill of sand.
Right.
It's like, the consumers can only, they only have so much income. So,
and I had an interesting conversation with a mortgage professional yesterday that she seemed very lucid on the fact that buying a home is not right for everyone. If you're living within your means, it's and you're able to save money, it's not necessarily a good thing to get into more debt.
No,
because the debt situation in America is getting completely out of hand.
Well, the way I view it is just like any other asset that you buy, like a stock or whatever. And again, going back to Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, they're sitting on a pile of cash right now, and their whole theory is they're not trying to time the market or anything. That's not how they operate. But when they look at assets, they're much overpriced for anything that they would buy, and so they just accumulate cash.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, you look out in the world right now, it's like, what house are you going to buy that you look at that house and go, yeah, that's worth the money I'm spending on it? You know, out of desperation, or not desperation, but out of circumstance, people are having to buy and sell.
Right.
But that's quickly changing. The sellers to buyers ratio is flipping in a lot of parts of the nation right now. And so for a long time, it's been a seller's market, but you know, that's quickly turning around. So
it is. And when you look at the value of homes in general today, it's like, where does it make sense to invest $350,000, $400,000 or $500,000 when you need to just, you know, every 5 to 10 years redo something substantial in your home?
This is one of my biggest pet peeves. And this, I don't know, I have a lot of, the way that they set up the housing industry drives me up the wall. A house is the quintessential definition of a depreciating asset, which means that it loses value year to year to year to year.
100%.
Because you have to continue to sink money into it. You have to repair your furnace. You have to paint it. You have to upkeep it. There's a ton of costs that go into owning a home. But somehow our society has tricked itself into calling a house an appreciating asset. Which is just, it's so bizarre to me. I can't even explain to people. It's just wild. And so, yes, you have this generation that has scooped up, this older generation has scooped up houses and assets, and they have, you know, gone from houses that they bought for $100,000 are now $500,000 with no added benefit to absolutely anybody. That's not how an economy works. An economy, a good, healthy economy, is derived from providing goods and services in exchange for value. Acquiring an asset that it magically appreciates with no added value to anybody is crazy.
It is. And then even fundamentally, we're building homes in the U.S. that deteriorate. You know, they depreciate, but they also deteriorate in terms of their quality. We talk about stick-built homes. Just the concept of, and people don't stop to think about this. And I guess I thought about it a lot more because I lived overseas and lived in homes that last for hundreds of years, that are still in the family, and they're built in the early 1900s or even earlier than that. I mean, there's obviously castles and things like that, but besides just normal homes made out of brick or stone, they last, you know, hundreds of years. Our stick-built homes, the concept of that still blows my mind. They deteriorate. You have to
quickly
replace, you know, walls and structure and flooring and I mean everything.
Ideally, when it reaches the end of life, you would like to tear it down and build something new. You can't even do that though. Once you build these things, they're basically stuck there. The price to get rid of them is too much as well. Which is, again, it's not a healthy way to handle deteriorating and depreciating assets. You know, when you reach end of life, you're supposed to be able to either return it to some value, which, you know, costs a lot of money, or get rid of it and build something new. And we can't do that right now in our economy either. So I don't know. There's a weird chunk of time coming up in the next 5 to 10 years where the older generation who's accumulated a lot of these assets are now going to look to unload them into generations who, one, have a smaller population, but two, don't have the money to buy them.
Right.
And so the downward pressure on pricing it's inevitable. It's just a matter of when that happens.
Right. My oldest son is looking at, you know, purchasing a home, and we've been talking quite regularly about, you know, what do certain states require, or what do they suggest in terms of household income. There are places that even Wyoming, if you look at the statistic, it's obviously there's you know, room for differences, or it's not a generalization, but it's over $300,000 is what a household needs to make in order to buy a home comfortably. That's their annual income.
Yeah.
And that's not, everyone doesn't make that. You know, I mean,
hardly anybody makes that.
Right. So it's just, and I think that all the realtors that are listening to this are cringing right now.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's reality. I'm not saying people aren't going to be buying and selling homes. They're just going to be at a drastically different price. They have to be. I mean, and it may not be now, it may not be this year, but at some point that downward pressure is going to be felt. There's nowhere. It's just math.
I think, you know, obviously I'm a capitalist. I think capitalism is the best tool we have today. You know, philosophically, it's the one that works the best, and the other ones haven't proven to work. But that this whole concept, this whole conversation, I think, is about the evils of capitalism, because we still will buy. We'll still, and college education is still going to get more and more expensive, and healthcare is going to get totally blown out of proportion. And you have a surgery, yet you have a child, and it's $30,000 to have a child. These concepts don't make sense, and as long as we are allowing them to acquire debt,
then this is going back to the whole political government thing. Is a lot of these markets get perverted by politics and government. And student debt is the perfect example. A long time ago, you used to pay reasonable prices to go to school, and you could work and pay for your own school and get out debt free. When government came and offered loans to people, that they would take on risk free. I mean, how do you evaluate the risk of an 18-year-old? They're infinitely risky. That's like crazy. So
we all were.
You offer everyone, loans to go to college. The college has no risk, zero risk to deny anybody college entry. And so they take everybody because it's a pass through to the college for the money. And so
100%.
There's no risk evaluation. No one is carrying the risk. The risk is being carried by the government, us.
Right.
And so there's no risk control on anything. And so the college is incentivized to drive prices up infinitely. And that's where we're at. And it's the same thing with housing. They've created tax structures. And one of the most efficient ways to live tax-free or tax efficiently is through real estate. And there's a number of ways that you can do that.
Right.
But it drives people to the real estate industry, and like it perverts and distorts what a healthy economy should look like.
Absolutely. I think that's an excellent point. Is if we look at a house as an investment opportunity, and there is cash flow. There's the two essential pieces of the puzzle. Is that there is cash flow in that investment? Then buying a house can make sense.
Yep.
But the concept of buying your home and living in it as a depreciating asset doesn't make financial sense.
No,
it doesn't.
Not right now. And that's why I tell a lot of young people that right now. They live in a different world than a lot of us do. It flat does not make sense to go to college for most people right now. It just doesn't. You will never, your return on investment will probably not outweigh the price that you pay to go to college. Same with a home. The price right now to purchase a home as a young person, you're probably not going to be able to support that right now.
In just financial sense, it's just financial logic. It's not.
Oh yeah, no, there's nothing controversial about either of those statements.
Right.
A lot of where they're going to find value is being mobile, being versatile, and being having the ability to learn things quickly and do a lot of different things. They're coming into a world now, and this is another thing I tell them about, college and secondary education is you're going to school in year one with a plan to go for 4 to 5 years. And you're making a gamble that what the future looks like in 4 to 5 years. Well, I'm here to tell you, with AI on the horizon, not a one of us knows what 4 to 5 years from now is going to look like.
100%.
There is going to be 70% fewer accountants, doctors, lawyers, engineers. Like the things that you go to school for is going to change dramatically. The best of the best will make it. I have a pretty good feeling that most will probably be outsourced to AI type programs.
100%. And it's unfortunate, but it's also the sign of the times. It's, there's some things we just can't slow down. What's interesting is that, and again, people should go back and listen to the other podcast, because you say all of this with an engineering background.
Yeah, it brings me no pleasure to tell you that, that engineers are being outsourced to AI. I'm telling you they are. I have family in this field who is integrating AI to be able to do things that engineers and architects do.
Right.
And it's doing it fast and very, very cheap.
Right.
It's coming.
You still have to double check the work that AI does.
Yeah, and that's what the remaining 30% do.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
This is my working theory. So to tie it back to coffee, because I spend a lot of time ruminating on a lot of these things.
Really?
The nice thing about coffee is it's a very durable business moving forward into an unknown world. There's always going to be demand for coffee, one. But the way that we've structured the business and being that community center is that we've made being human a very central part of our business. And when in a world where things are going to be more and more separated, having a place where people can be together, I think, is going to be crucially important.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of where we're that's why we're putting so much emphasis on the human to human interactions.
Right. I couldn't agree more. I think that we're, you know, even with the invention of this new word that we call solopreneur, I think there's a lot of things that we do isolated, independent, remote work, all these things that we want to be completely separate from society. That I believe will be the downfall. You know, you can be, I'm not dogging on, solopreneurs if you do what you do at home, but then you interact with society,
Right.
more power to you. But those people that think they can run an entire business, I think that's in the big picture, that's that'll be the downfall of our society.
Yeah. Well, it's a question that you asked earlier is like, when you think of what is valuable in your life moving forward, what is that going to look like? That's a question we all need to be asking ourselves right now for the next 5 to 10 years, because the way that we structure our lives based around what we value is going to change pretty dramatically. The options that are going to be available are going to change quite a bit. Things are going to become much cheaper, most likely. So long term, people talk a lot about inflation, but long term, as you integrate, these AI type products, they get very cheap. AI is extremely cheap. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of energy that goes into it, but there's so much competition that the price of a Chat GPT thing that you can use is what, $20, something like that. It's hardly anything. Yeah. And you can do a lot of functions with that. That can replace 4 people. That's wildly powerful, wildly cheap. So there's a lot of deflationary things to consider too, not just inflation. Right, so
absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to have to change as a society, we're going to have to really consider what we value in life. There's going to be some really deep conversations to be had in the future.
Absolutely. But I think that you're absolutely right. We can't lose the community aspect. So we need to keep the coffee shops. We need to keep artisanal, craft brewing places, because they have a similar purpose, I think, is creating that community. I
think that's the people that are going to excel the most, are the people who find a hobby or a craft that they are able to invest a lot of time in and really take to a high level. I think quality in those areas that goes up, I think we'll be very successful.
So in this, unforeseen future that you're describing, how do you find hope to keep doing what you're doing and stay focused? What is your driving force? What wakes you up in the morning and say, hey, we're going to keep doing this despite what AI is doing and changing and how the government is, having their influence. How do you find?
Well, that's what I'm talking about, being the cultural hub. I want to position us as the cultural hub where people can come and be with one another and lean into that human element in a world that's very, very digital. Mm-hmm. But one of the beautiful things I see in the shop often is there is a lot of conversations where people are not looking at their phones near as much as you see a lot of other places, which is a really cool thing to observe. Yes. I love that. I think that is a calling that we're really taking very seriously. Mm-hmm. Because it is something that's going to be in short supply moving forward. And, if we're one of the few places where people can get together and be with one another, that's our role. That's our calling. Ari and I are both, very, very Christian people, and there is a calling there that's deeper than just, the business aspect, that the business is a means to an end, but there is a deeper calling there that we think that we have found. So
right. No, that's awesome. It is. And I think that we need that. We definitely need that in Casper. We need that in Wyoming. We need it in, we need that, the vision for community, for, those relationships. And you're right. You're absolutely right. When you go into Copper Cup Coffee, people are not in their phones like you see even in restaurants today. I mean, how many times do you walk into a restaurant and they're, the families are together and their kids are on their phones and the parents are there. And it's like, our society is we need to work on that. We need to do better for sure.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see the generation that's coming up, maybe the high school or younger generation coming up, how they interact with that technology. If there's any sorts of rebellion coming up, that kids are always, theoretically supposed to be, rebellious against the way things are. And mm-hmm. it would be very nice to have a rebellious generation come up and kind of look away from some of this technology and
Right.
revert back to hanging out in person. I would enjoy seeing that.
Exactly. And not coming home until
Yeah,
dark.
For God's sake, don't come home until 9:00.
Right. No, that's awesome. That's what I mean. I love seeing your kids on the, on the tractors and the backhoes and things like that. It's I mean, that's just, those are things we, a lot of kids miss. Because they're, playing their PlayStations and things like that.
Yeah. We're putting a lot of emphasis on that. We really, I mean, we're kind of gearing up to go a homeschool route into the future, especially those middle school years. But, right now we're not really putting a whole lot of emphasis on schooling so much, but we're immersing them in that coffee shop world where they're experiencing a lot.
Yeah.
They're, all the kids are really interactive. They are able to speak and communicate with people, and they just get a lot of interactions that I don't know a lot of other kids do.
No.
Every single day. They're just immersed in it all the time.
I think in general, when kids grow up in an entrepreneurial family, it gives them something that other families can offer them. And I think that's just a fact. The stresses as well as the, the wins and the losses, it's an overall positive thing. I mean, I grew up in an entrepreneurial family as well, and it's definitely impacted me to see that, no one's going to come and save you. The government's not going to step in. And that's, I think those are great concepts. You could pull yourself up by your bootstraps. But some of the cutest, but also I think the best posts, in my personal opinion, that Ari puts out is your oldest son and his seriousness that he takes to the coffee shop.
Yeah.
And that's how old is he? 4, 6?
Oh, well, the oldest one that you don't see as much, he's in the back, but the middle one,
the middle one, okay.
Yeah, he is wired differently. Anyone who's been around the shop and seen him at work, he takes work very seriously. He loves work, loves it.
Yeah.
Anybody who comes to do work at the coffee shop, he is on their hip constantly. Mm-hmm. And it is so funny when contractors first arrive, he'll be there, he'll show up and he stands by them and they're not quite sure how to deal with this. It's like, we interact with kids, but maybe he'll go away in about 10 minutes. And after about a half a day, they have him in a hard hat, in a vest, running the job as the foreman, right. and watching that transition is just hilarious. It never gets old.
It is.
It's so funny.
It's awesome. No, those are great posts, and those are things. If you're not subscribed to Ari's posts, you need to do it. Copper Cup Coffees, they're amazing.
Oh yeah, she does a great job for sure.
In some of the earlier podcasts, because like I said, this is number 3, and this is awesome. You talked a lot about community involvements. Are there things that you're doing in 2025 that are new initiatives that you're taking to be more involved in the community? Yeah.
So last time we talked, you asked about that, and I said we probably needed to be better about that. And so I was asked to join the board for 3 Crowns and the Platte River reuse program.
Okay.
And so I'm helping with that. I sit on the board. I don't know that I can contribute a whole lot, but I'm there. I take up a seat. And then Ari recently has been on the board for David Street, which is right down the block from us. And she works with Whitney, and they've got a lot of cool stuff going too. It's a really nice space in town that, they're really going to inject a lot of energy into. I think that's going to be a good partnership. And I think we've spent a lot of time there with our kids. And so it's just a wonderful place to really invest some energy in.
For sure.
And take care of.
All right. No, Whitney's doing a great job at South David Street Station. Yeah. That's great. And you also joined the chamber.
We got in on the chamber. Yep. So we're finally at a point where we can start branching out a little bit right. and partaking a little more. Yeah. Yep. For sure.
So how do you balance people balance situations where people come and ask you for things, because you have to run a profitable business still, that's obvious. And there's a lot of asks, people say, can you help us this? Can you sponsor this? Can you do this? How do you balance all that? Because at the end of the day, if you're not profitable, then it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You gotta take that seriously. There's a bit of a transition phase there. Because when you give something away for free, you're basically writing that off as marketing. And early on in your business, you have to be a little more careful about that because you're sending out goods, so cost of goods goes up, and you're claiming it as marketing, and the payment doesn't come off for a while, and so you have to be careful managing your cash flow early on. Mm-hmm. But we've been able to basically donate and take part in all the stuff that goes on around, and we definitely see the returns. There's a marketing aspect there that you can appreciate and take part in. And we usually come through on most of that stuff. It is balanced. We try not to overextend ourselves for the reason that you bring up. And, we do what we can, but we can't, put ourselves at a disadvantage either. So.
For sure. Yeah. You have to balance, obviously the point is to drive sales. If you do marketing, because marketing is always, it's poker. You never know.
Even when someone asks you for something for free, and this is kind of how I evaluate. When someone asks you for something for free, it's on them to do a good job of explaining the value that you are going to get in return, the non-monetary value you're going to get in return.
Right.
And in a lot of cases, that's, the marketing, the brand recognition, that kind of thing. Someone who did a really nice job of this was actually the family we bought the building from, the Johannesons. Ada rides barrel horses, and so she came to us with a full resume and of asking for sponsorship, and outlined in her resume was, this is what you get at this level, this is what you get at this level, and outlines the commitments and the value that she's going to add to you in exchange for money. Well, everything should operate like that. I mean, that's an easy yes. It's the ones that come and ask for free things that don't do a good job of explaining the value that you're going to get in return.
Right.
And I think when you have that conversation, it makes it really easy to exchange stuff. So
for sure. And there's opportunities as well that you want to support other businesses as well. And that's a different factor.
Yeah.
And I know that we're both supporting, we're sponsoring Sean Reed in his race cars. And I think, having our logos on those vehicles that, there's several thousand people. I think I forget the number that he there's obviously a direct impact, people. And I think that's part of it too, is supporting other businesses as well. And so there's not always a monetary, return on investment, because we want to help other business, but there still has to be.
Right. And the value doesn't have to be money. And sometimes it's relationships. Sometimes it's just, a favor here, it yields a favor in the future kind of thing. And, those are things you have to consider. It's just, a stranger walks in and asks for a free thing. That's different than a genuine exchange of value that maybe isn't monetary, but there's something there that you get in the future.
Exactly. 100%. Let's shift gears and talk about innovation and coffee in general. Are there any trends that you'd like to see incorporated into coffee in the next season? Are the things that other coffee shops are doing that you think that actually could? I mean, already the Wyoming Sports Ranch, when you go out there, that's an experience in itself.
Oh yeah,
that's some really nice quality machines that you're doing.
I think that is a fairly unique thing. So we I'll make some brand shout outs here. We use the Mavam under counter espresso machine. So we have 2 heads per machine, and we have 2 machines. So 4 total heads to do espresso on. And these are great. They sit right on top of the counter. It's a clean look. You're able to pull espresso without having a whole espresso machine in between you and the customer. So the boiler and the pumps go down below into a cart that was done by Jared with Classy Carts. And so they're kind of a custom fitted product that I don't know exists anywhere else. This is kind of the serial 1 and 2 of this thing. So
is he a local business?
No, he's in Texas, and then Mavam, I believe, is Washington, Seattle, maybe.
Okay.
But yeah, great products. And then we've got the top of the line coffee grinder with Malkanig, and I'm just thrilled to death with how everything turned out. So
it's great.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Are there any coffee trends that you'd like to bring in? Maybe it's coffee art, or things that you like to see done more.
I don't know. One of the things that we do is just really leaning into the simplicity, and quality. The quality of simplicity. So right now, I'm helping one of our guys that we were bringing up, Tyler. I've been teaching him to roast, and he's a coffee genius to begin with. It's not like I'm teaching him, anything he probably doesn't already know, but we're going through it and working on the roast together, and I'm integrating him on the roasting side, which, going back to eliminating single points of failure, now you have multiple people who understand roasting, and so that's great. But really focusing on the quality and the simplicity of roasting and consistency. So that's what we're hammering on in training there. On the other side, Ari's just really created a very nice funnel. So one of the benefits that Ari's done by making a really nice quality place to work that comes with a lot of clout. I think there's some prestige that comes with working at Copper Cup in the community now. And so the quality of candidates that we're getting through to hire has improved, greatly. And so she's done a great job in really harnessing that. which is awesome because it gives us a deep pool to pick from, which is awesome. So that's been awesome. So like when you ask about innovation, a lot of it is actually just simple fundamentals. I don't know that we're looking for any gizmos or gadgets or, the new trend. Coffee always has these little trends that pop up year to year, and they go and present them. And you go to YouTube and they kind of unbox the newest things. But truly, we lean into the quality and the fundamentals, and I think that's where our bread and butter is.
I listened to this British coffee expert. I'm sure you know who he is. I just don't remember his name. He's one of the well-known coffee espresso guys, and he was saying that there's only 2 or 3 aspects to an espresso that make it work. Obviously the quantity of the bean, the quality of the bean, the quantity of the bean, and the pressure that that you're using to have the water go through the espresso grind, and also the size of the grind. There's 3 or 4 things. But
it's
then
kinetics. It's 4 things over and over and over again. Time, temperature, surface area, and mixing.
Right.
And some combination of those 4 is all of coffee.
And what he was saying was that there's only a few aspects to it, but it takes a lifetime sometimes to dial it in right. So it's not a complicated thing. It's there's important things, and you can't get them wrong. If you have 20 grams and you're shooting for 19 grams, and the 19 grams taste better than the 20 grams, then you got to dial it back. But it takes a long time to dial it in, right, to make and it's also subjective. I think it's not a science. There's a science to it, but your own personal taste of what you enjoy is subjective.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So the chemistry he's talking about, kinetics, it applies to all chemical reactions, time, temperature, surface area, and mixing. And you can adjust those 4 things, and that's how you get the difference between cold brew and pour over and espresso and anything else that you're brewing, and even roasting for that fact. You have beans that have different size, which means different surface area, and it has different density, so it transfers heat differently. But it all comes back to those 4 things mostly. Yeah.
Right. One of the things I really appreciated was you had a tasting session about probably a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago now. And that was really eye-opening because I didn't realize, because I enjoy coffee. I have an espresso maker. I bought my grinder with you guys. I got my advice from which espresso maker I should buy from you. But I didn't realize there's so many connections with whiskey tasting as well.
Yeah, wine, whiskey, cigars, anything like that where you're using your senses to differentiate. At the end of the day, different chemical molecules. Yeah, you're using your senses to determine what those are.
Right, and the more you understand it, the more you can also dial it in the way you want. If it's too acidic or too bitter, there's some clear adjustments you can make. And I remember when I first got the espresso maker and the grinder, I would text you and say, hey, it's to this or to that, and then a dial. And now I enjoy quality espresso every day, because of your your engineering skills.
It's awesome to run some of that trial and error type stuff, and people who are new to coffee, it's okay to taste bad and understand what bad is. So if you have a fast shot that's sour, taste it and understand why it's sour and what sour tastes like. Yeah. And then if you have something that's over extracted and bitter, taste it and understand what it is you're tasting and why it is the way it is.
Right.
When you're able to build that mental model, that helps you in the future to really narrow down the mistakes you make in the future. So, and tasting, that's important. Like you should understand what you're tasting, how it got there, and the changes you can make to fix it. Right. And the sooner that you can do that, and the more that repetitions you can run through there, you're not going to waste as much coffee at home. You're going to be able to dial in espresso quite a bit faster. Yeah.
It's, not every coffee that I have is perfect at home, but I know always why.
Yeah.
Either the machine didn't warm up enough, it wasn't hot enough, or I measured out the wrong amount. I mean, there's always something, and I know what it is, and I can always just get another one.
Yeah, and honestly, that's a lot of the fun. I know there's a lot of people that geek out on espresso stuff, and it like every hobby, it kind of gets blown way out of the realm of reality. But I think a lot of the fun isn't dialing in a perfect espresso. I think a lot of the fun is the thought exercise of going through the process and seeing a mistake, but having that mental acuity to go, oh, this went wrong and this is going to taste like this, and then confirming it with taste. And I think that's the pleasure a lot of people get from really diving down the espresso rabbit hole. If they're honest with themselves, they'll say, oh, I waste so much coffee trying to dial in a shot. In reality, that's probably the fun part for them.
Right.
Yeah.
But the problem, I think, the ultimate issue is that the more you enjoy quality coffee, whether it's, wherever it is, then you can't go back.
No.
I've been offered coffee in restaurants or, and they're not like, well, there's an exception to the rule. Pete Fazio at Eggington's offers Copper Cup coffee, and that coffee is good. Yeah. But I'll just say no. And it's not because I love coffee or I really enjoy coffee that I'm going to drink coffee anywhere. And so it kind of messes you up for, good quality coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's hard going somewhere when you have somebody who really puts a lot of care into the quality of a product. It's really hard to go somewhere where it's not just that the quality is bad, but they don't care that the quality is bad. Right. That's kind of the hard part for me. Yeah. And we run into this when we travel too, because we put a lot of care, we've put a lot of thought into our ratios on how we make a latte is, a certain amount of coffee and milk, and it's a little bit more than most. But when we travel, and especially to roasters who should be proud of their coffee and still dilute their coffee with milk and water, unnecessarily. So it's never necessary. It drives me up the wall. It's like, it kills me. Right. No. Yeah, I don't know why we seem to be one of the few that have figured out that little, nuance that matters to a lot of our customers. Like, our coffee tastes like coffee, and you go there to get coffee. Yeah. But you don't find that everywhere, which is, it baffles me.
That's why I don't go to Starbucks. I mean, Starbucks is not, in my opinion, it's not coffee. It's a sweet drink. It's a sweet, milk-based drink.
Yeah, it's an ice cream shop or a candy store.
It's not coffee. And people can go to that. I'm not going to, I'm going to go. And
I think it's the way the adults take on dessert in the morning without having to feel bad about it, as they call it coffee.
Right, exactly. Your 2,000 calories worth
of day.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So one thing, going back to what we said earlier, is the one thing that I do, I'd rather have coffee at Copper Cup Coffee, but I do have a machine at home because I need coffee in the morning. Mm-hmm. But is that I don't share it with anyone. That's frustrating. Unless it's an Irish coffee, then I can share an Irish coffee with some people. Yeah. but otherwise, it's like that is important to me is to share. And when I have family over and I can make a few espresso shots for people, that I enjoy that. I enjoy making that because it is the experience, but it's also the conversation piece. It's and so that is the one downside of having a nice espresso maker at home is the fact that yes, it's good. But I also, I mostly enjoy, sharing that. I was in yesterday morning talking to a mutual friend of ours, and just enjoy that. I think it's a means to an end, and I think we can't get away from that. We shouldn't have. I don't think it's right to have like super sophisticated coffee machines at home and then never go to the coffee shop because we need that. We need that interaction.
Yep.
So,
yeah, and like a lot of the ties back to Butte. They have a big bar culture there, and a big drinking culture, but it's always in the presence of other people. It's very community oriented. We're just exchanging alcohol for coffee, and same thing. You can have a glass of wine at home by yourself. It's not the same as going out and having one with your friends. It's not. It's a different thing.
Yeah. So, and that's one of the things because we do drink alcohol at home and wine and things like that. But one of the things I instilled in my kids is that you don't drink when you're alone. There's no, because that obviously leads to other issues, right. and I think drinking in moderation is completely acceptable. I think but it's a means to an end. It's the centerpiece that allows the conversation to happen.
It's a social lubricant. Yeah. It is what it is. And if you treated it any more than that, then you're kind of going down a different path there. Yeah. But coffee fills that role nicely. It doesn't have the same bad effects, but it's still something that gets you involved and gets you out in with people, which is important. Mental health wise, that's just so important. So,
community, absolutely. Yeah. Balancing work life, that's something that you talked about quite a bit last time as well. How do you are you doing anything new in 2025 to balance that? Because you're open from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Now you have this new shop. You're always there. And if you're not there behind the counter, I can call you and you'll come down. I mean, how do you balance everything all out?
The one thing that I think a lot of younger people are going to have to come to terms with is work-life balance doesn't exist when you're young. You really need to get over that. That is one of the most ridiculous things ever. When you're young, you really need to be expending all your energy on improving your position in life and improving who you are. When you're young, you don't really have a lot to offer anybody. You're not a very marketable person. And so you have to go out there and put forth a lot of effort to get to a position where you can earn money or be a valuable person to somebody else or whatever that is. Women both, maybe in different ways. But this idea of work-life balance as a young person, I find to be ridiculous. But we are at that stage in our life where now we're shuffling young kids around. Things change a little bit. That work-life balance is getting kids to activities, building them into quality human beings. And so that has to be a priority in our life above everything else. When I think of intergenerational things to pass along, we want to raise our kids knowing how to do a lot of different things. We want them to be in a position where they can, build themselves out as top level humans down the line. So yeah, that's our number one priority. Besides that, it's that and coffee. Like the work-life balance is that. There's not really much else.
All right.
Yeah, we work out from time to time. We kind of fall in and out of that, taking care of our own health. But even that is it's a priority, but it's not the top priority.
Right. I think one thing that I noticed is that there isn't these barriers. Like your kids are there, they do their homework there, they're around, and you're working and they're around you. I've seen Ari, serve coffee at the window and with one of your kids on her hip. So it's like you're not afraid to mix both either. Yeah.
And I have this I don't know. When I look forward at the idea of retirement, I always laugh because I've never been a person that has found a lot of value in retirement or what retirement means to most people, especially the generation that's going into retirement now or is already retired. The idea of having 3 houses, traveling around, playing golf, I just really find that to be a ridiculous lifestyle, especially with the extended lifespan of, you're talking of people who are living this lifestyle for 30, 40 years.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. It's just otherworldly crazy. I can never picture myself not being in a position to provide value to other people. That would just be absurd. Yeah. I could never, that's crazy to me.
I think there's a time for rest and you can, take some more time off and, but I don't think like I often say to my kids, it's like, I don't see the word retirement in the Bible. I don't see it. It's not part of a ancient society,
Well, it's a very modern idea. Like, I mean, the people that are on Earth right now have grown up with it. And so it's kind of this socially accepted thing that retirement is a thing that we that's like the end goal for people is to retire.
Right.
That's so ridiculous to me. I've never really understood that as a valuable thing to strive for, is to retire. Like, you have grandkids to take care of and help raise, and there's things that still need to be done. And especially when you've spent 30 years in a position, like your responsibility is to be teaching and training people and bringing the next generation up and pulling them up. And, to see people playing golf for 30 years, that just blows my mind.
This next question might lead us down the same rabbit hole as before, but, I think that when we look at other cultures, we look at, the retirement age in Europe, for example, and I have a brother-in-law that's living in Europe, and he said that he's roughly my age, and he says one of the biggest things that he's concerned about is the amount of retirees. In a socialistic government, because it's Europe, it's the working class that has to take care of those people, and to a certain extent, it's the same here in America. And if they don't plan for the retirement here in America, it's going to fall back on us anyway. Well, but how do you manage that as a society?
Everyone, I'm sure, will chuckle at this, but in America, thank God for the millennials. No, and honestly, demographically, not many other countries have a millennial generation that is on par with the boomer generation. Most everywhere has a very old and aging population with very, very low birth rates. I don't know. I spend a lot of time thinking about this because it's one of those problems that doesn't seem to get talked about enough and with the seriousness that it probably should be talked about. But you have a very aging, world population with an extremely low birth rate and small, younger generations that aren't, let's be honest, not being super productive. And an aging generation, like I just said, that's not being productive. And so who the hell is carrying the water for society right now?
Yeah. You and me.
Like that is a crazy conundrum. I don't know. Like after the millennials, the demographics get really, really small in America too. Yeah, I don't know. We're going to have to wrestle with that in the future. I have no idea what that looks like.
Right.
That's bizarre. To put it this way, it's never happened before. When in human history has there ever been a decreasing population?
Right.
Like, we don't know what to do with that.
Yeah. Elon Musk keeps saying that. Not everyone.
No, he's the only one, which is baffling to me.
Is that we're not making, we're not having as many as children as we should. We're not repopulating the earth
so,
like we should.
Whatever we're going to do in the future, it's going to be completely novel. We don't know what to do with a decreasing population. That's crazy. Yeah, it's I don't know.
Yeah, it's politicized because we think there's 8 billion people. There's too many people on the planet.
Well, and that like I said, the generation above is demanding resources. They're older and demanding the Social Security type resources, and they got to pay their green fees somehow. And the younger generation is not earning the amount that's needed to support that.
Right.
I mean, mathematically, none of this stuff leads to a good place.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, for sure. That's why people talk about socialism and they talk about we need to emulate what's happening in Europe, but we don't. I mean, that's the issue. I lived in that culture for a long time, and it's like with an aging population that all has government benefits of retirement. Someone has to pay for that.
Fundamentally, it's all's been a Ponzi scheme for the last 20, 30, 40 years. It's all a giant Ponzi scheme. You have multiple systems that are fundamentally based off growing population. That's stock market, that's housing, that's medical, that's Social Security, our government programs. Every single one of these things is dependent on a larger generation coming up to buy those assets.
Yeah.
That is changing. The smaller population coming behind, number one, is smaller. Number two is poorer. We've never had a poor generation in America before. This is a first. Where usually the idea is, I'm going to leave a better future for my kids, or I want them to do better than me.
Right.
This is the first time where that's not even the case. So smaller and poorer. I don't know how you're going to support the large, people asking for their retirement money. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we've been complaining about it for years that Social Security won't even be there, and it's becoming more and more a reality. But if you don't invest, if you don't have your own investments for retirement, what are you going to do?
This is another scary thing too, is the people who are invested in the older generation who are looking to retire, and that's their cash flow. That's how they're going to survive.
Right.
Sadly, a lot of their assets are tied into stocks, which is wild. They're high risk, 60-40 allocation, which for people in the retirement age is like absurd. Like, it's not going to take much of a market turnaround to feel a lot of pressure at that age group, where you need to pull money out and to sell assets at lower prices is going to put them in a pinch. So yeah, there's a lot of those things out there that you look at and go, gosh, that could be bad. That could be bad. That one could be
sure.
bad.
And
so
there's also huge
layers.
There's a huge amount of a lack of education as well, because they keep investing in the stock market. But as we said earlier,
because for the last 30 years, stock market go up.
Right.
And you talk to them, it was like, I put it into my index fund because it goes up. Like,
right.
Okay. The last 40, 50 years. Sure. Yeah. But like I said, a lot of that is based off of larger populations coming up behind you to put pressure on the prices to go up. That's not happening anymore.
And what's going to happen when there's a course correction? And no one knows the answer to that question.
Don't know.
When there's a course correction, what's going to happen with the stock market? What's going to happen with our IRAs and our 401ks and all these things that the almighty grail of having a 401k? What's going to happen to it?
Yeah. Well, then that's part of the problem in just going off historical trends is, you've gone off historical trends forever, but now you're in this novel place that I don't know. I don't know how you predict that.
Yeah.
It's It's nuts.
Nobody knows. And
That's why I love coffee. Is it's a durable good that's been around forever. Even when America went through its Civil War, people demanded coffee. They went to extreme levels to get coffee during the Civil War when there was none available. And so you find businesses like that, and you can survive. So
even
durable. Yeah.
Even in the Second World War, I have, family that had family, and they talked about, carrying coffee beans, small coffee beans and potatoes and staples, and coffee beans was a staple.
100%.
And it's just the wildest thing. It's
yeah, I know. I put a lot of thought into these type of things when we went through this whole business startup process, and these are all things I considered a long time ago. Is if we're going to start a business, I would really like it to be a durable business, and there's not many that are durable like coffee. There's a few others, but not many. So that's a really exciting place to be.
What's one piece of wisdom that you can share with a young entrepreneur like you 10 years ago? Not that you're old now.
10 years ago, I wouldn't have been worthwhile into giving advice to. So I don't know. Yeah, you gotta, in all honesty, you do have to go through a few years of taking your lumps. Like there's a lot you need to learn. There's a lot of maturing that you have to do. If you're a young entrepreneur, like I said earlier, school isn't for anybody. And so that kind of puts you on the entrepreneurial path almost by definition, I suppose, or getting into a workforce or the crafts or something like that. But I think the idea of working 20 to 30 hours and calling that, or even 40 hours for that matter of fact, calling a 40-hour work week a full-time job, I think you need to realign your expectations for where you are in life. The work that you need to do to be successful in today's world, you will be working 80 hours a week or more. I truly believe that if you're going to be successful and that's your ambition, the 40-hour work week will not suffice. I really believe that. I think you need to work. The people coming up now are going to have to work much harder.
Got it.
And that's going to but that being said, there's so few people willing to do that it's going to take you exponentially further. That's one thing that I've kind of noticed. And I was talking to Ari about this while we were out and about. I go, the one thing that brings me a lot of peace with what we're doing is I've seen how hard it is to get here. And I know that there is no one else willing to put in the time, money, and energy to do it. It's easy. You have to do the work though, and nobody's willing to do the work. So if you want to set yourself apart, work hard and work often, a lot of volume. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I see your success today, and I think it's just happened overnight.
Yeah.
It didn't.
Yep.
So for that one person that's never been to Copper Cup Coffee, where can they find you?
We're on 631 Ash Street, right across from the Natrona County football field. And we're up at the Sports Ranch now. So we'll look forward to seeing everybody up there too.
So all the major events will be at the Sports Ranch as well.
I think even for practices and stuff, we're going to shoot on being available and open, and we'll hopefully just cover the whole time frame that it's open.
All right. So there's 2 locations for now, and who knows what the future has in store for you. That's awesome. Dave, thank you very much for this time. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Erik.
It was a pleasure. All right.